Welcome to the Pot.Live podcast. I'm your host, Lenny G. This podcast is all about connecting the community with the thought leaders of business and entertainment in the cannabis industry. As this industry expands and becomes more and more mainstream, we want to educate and entertain our listeners and become your choice and voice for all things cannabis. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show. Have you visited MJ.com? MJ.com is the online destination where you can find everything you need to know about the emerging legal marijuana industry. Where else can you find the latest original content, news, and trends? Connect to a local doctor to obtain your medical marijuana card, receive exclusive brand savings, and have your favorite product delivered straight to your front door? MJ.com has it all. Go check them out. Welcome to another episode of the Pot Live podcast. I'm your host, Lenny G, and today I have a special guest, Mr. Armen Gregorian. He is the founder and CEO of the new MAE brand. MAE, M-A-E, stands for Mind at Ease. It's a luxury brand centered on design. They have elevated design and luxurious materials and a collection of unique accessories for the discerning cannabis connoisseur out there. Armen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Len. Thank you.
Excellent. It's so great to have you on. So let's start off by just giving everyone, what's your business background? How did you even get into the cannabis community right off the bat, the cannabis industry right off the bat? Tell us a little bit about your background.
My background actually is not in cannabis at all. I was out of consumption of cannabis for 30 years. I was very big into cannabis from 1975 to 79 when I was in college. Then I overdid it so much, I decided not to do it anymore. And then for lack of a better word, you could call me a serial entrepreneur or whatever you want to call it. I've had about 5 or 6 startups, starting from windsurfing to snowboarding, and then into gaming on the internet. Then I was in a fashion business. And basically I built companies and I sold them to private equity or found some sort of an exit. Then I retired in about 2-3 years ago, 2015, after selling my company called ALC. It's a major fashion company out of Los Angeles. And then I decided I got really bored, to be honest with you. I'd cashed out, and all the industries I've been in, they've been new industries. So I got into windsurfing when windsurfing was not very well known. Then snowboarding, we were the third people to make snowboards, Kemper snowboards. Then we got into gaming in Internet 1.0 in 1998 in a company called iWin.com, which sold to Vivendi Universal. And then 2 fashion brands, Cynthia Vincent, the other ones called ALC. So when I was retired, my daughter asked me to drink less and smoke some pot. Mm-hmm. So she gave me some pot. I smoked the pot and I said, what the hell happened to this plant? This is not what we used to smoke. So I started finding out that, more and more about cannabis and decided to get into the business. This was exactly about the time where it was getting legalized in California. It's taken us about 2.5 years to put that product out. But the whole idea was to bring there was 2 ideas behind MAE, which stands for Mind at Ease. One is to question everything. I asked myself, how would Steve Jobs do this? How would he approach cannabis? And the first question from me was, what is it that's really important? And what is it that's historical? And I realized there's 2 segments. There's basically, you got the stoner market, for lack of a better word, and you got the newcomers. The newcomers are very different. Then I realized, even though women are 30 to 32% of the current users, they're about 65% of the new users. And my question was, why isn't anybody marketing something towards women? Then I asked myself, what is it that's more important for women? And when you're saying women, that's not necessarily women. It could be, let's say, the non-stoner category, right? And so based on that, I figured solving some problems would be a good thing. The 2 main problems I thought required solving. One was discreetness. Most people would rather consume marijuana discreetly, even though it's totally legal, because you don't want to smell like that, or if you're at work, if you want to go to the bathroom and you want to take a hit, you don't want everybody else to know that you smoke cannabis. So we figured one was, how do you make this relatively odorless? And the other one is, how do you make it discreet? And then why can't you bring luxury or design more than luxury into cannabis? So MindEddies basically is attempting to deliver what we call rosé of cannabis. Basically, our THC levels are lower, but not that low. But the idea is for it not to get you very stoned initially, but you can take more hits. If you take more hits, you'll get to wherever you want. If you're at 53% and you take 2 hits, you're at 106. And pot's not that expensive. 1 hit's like 15 cents. Nobody thinks about it. And the other part was the design aspect. And I'm like, all these head shops are full of all this garbage. Why isn't anybody doing something like Dunhill and DuPont did in tobacco? Meaning bring some design and luxury and better materials to it. And then I partnered up with Joe Doucette. He's a major designer. He was named designer of the year award by Smithsonian, and he's into cannabis. So we started a line of accessories, which is designed by Joe Doucette. So basically, MindEddies has 2 lanes. One is our THC lane, which we have a cartridge and a disposable vaping pen. And we also have MAE Zero, which is CBD, hemp CBD. And then the other lane is MindEddies accessories, which comprises of a bunch of accessories. So that's basically how we got here.
That's great. And I can tell everyone out there listening, I am a customer of the MAE brand, and the pieces are beautiful. Everything is high quality. And I think that you really hit on something when you said earlier, Armen, that people want to still be a little discreet about it, even where it's legal, just because there is still that old stigma attached to smoking marijuana in whatever fashion you're going to do it. But you're actually making it like almost cool, and like with your products, you would actually look discreet and I don't know if cool's the word, but or trendy. I don't know the word I'm looking, fashionable, I guess. Sitting there and utilizing your products, they're so nice. They almost look like jewelry, and it's really well designed. So congratulations on setting up a beautiful brand.
Thank you so much. Our inspiration was a very famous French company called DuPont. DuPont created a lighter, which was originally designed for Picasso. Then it became like the major lighter, and they did this. So did Dunhill. Dunhill was a pipe company. So basically my concept was, let me take what Dunhill did for tobacco, and Dunhill came up with a luxury cigarette as well. I use that as a model.
Sure.
And we're inspired by them. We stand on their shoulders. And I completely agree with discreetness. You know, the fact that you're using cannabis and it's legal doesn't necessarily mean you want everybody else to know you just did it. Also, if you're sitting in a restaurant and you're taking a hit, well, you can't do that with flower.
Correct.
You know, you can with MAE, odorless, and it's very discreet. It's the battery is the size of a palm. And even our disposable vaping pen, one of our design standards was we should be shorter than Juul, because Juul is successful mainly because of its length.
Yep. And you also referenced earlier that the products, the oils that you use, they're not going to punch you in the face and knock you out. They're just going to really just kind of chill you, relax you. I know off the air you used an analogy like it's almost like having a rosé instead of a shot of tequila. Would that be correct?
Yes, actually, we have a trademark on rosé of cannabis. Just like Nike has, just do it, right? So basically what we're saying, we are rosé of cannabis. Everybody else is selling tequila. 2 glasses of rosé would get you to the same place, and it's not that expensive.
And it tastes better.
You can always take more. How do you take less? It's harder. So we're solving for the person who wants to chill. But nothing's stopping that person from taking 10 hits.
Yep.
But we're not designed for it. Basically, our concept is mild, mellow, laid back, rosé all day.
Got it. And where can everyone find you online or get in touch with your team to check out all your products?
Well, we have 2 websites. The accessory one is MAE, MAE-LA, LA like Los Angeles, MAE-LA.com. And the THC site is MAE.LA. But I encourage everyone to look at the accessories because that's, our THC product's good, but the barriers are big. You have to go to a dispensary, find it. We just launched last week, so our distribution is spotty. But MAE-LA.com is a direct-to-consumer site.
Yeah, it's a beautiful site.
Yeah, and it's very easy to use. and we ship anywhere in the world, free freight, free returns, and the products have a lifetime guarantee.
Fantastic. All right. So I want to jump back into your personal journey a little, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have come from traditional business backgrounds, and now they're interested or intrigued by the cannabis industry. You mentioned all the different successes you had in the past, and then you jumped into the cannabis industry. Did any of your former business associates or family or friends, look at you like you're crazy or look at you different because you were jumping into cannabis? Did you experience anything like that?
Well, the reason I didn't experience it, because all my friends and family have always thought I was crazy since I was 24. So there was no big difference.
So they expected this of you.
They expected this. They expected it. But some of them were like, why cannabis? And my answer was, why windsurfing when nobody knows what windsurfing is? Why snowboards when nobody knows what snowboards are? Why do gaming on the internet before Google's there? Why get into contemporary fashion? When we got into contemporary fashion, if anyone's familiar with the fashion industry, the word contemporary didn't exist in 2003. So basically, I've had this gift of being able to sense trends earlier. And I've built a career based on getting into industries where there's white space. Because I never had the money to get into industries in which there wasn't a white space. I never raised money. I've self-funded all the deals, but I designed them I reverse engineered them for exit. So the idea was to get into a new industry. So I was used to that. So the new industry then was cannabis. And also Los Angeles is a mecca of cannabis. I mean, some people may say Humboldt is, California is, but it's about LA. So I'm in LA, I'm in design, and there's a new industry opening up. It was natural. The biggest issue was I had no idea how primitive a stage this industry was in. When I got in, I could not believe my eyes when I went to the shows. That like nobody was talking about branding. Everything was commodity. Everything was maximizing the amount of THC. Then I learned it's not necessary to be at 80%. If the terpenes are right, Max Montrose has a really good video, which is on our website, basically saying it's about the terps. So basically it was a natural. And by the way, all my ventures have not been successful. I've had successes and I've had major failures. But I learned a lot more from my failures, to be honest with you.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a similar journey in the fact I've also built several businesses in different industries and then jumped into the cannabis industry as well. And I agree with everything you said. One thing is that if you've built a business before, whether it was a small startup or something that became larger, it's still the same principle in this industry. There are a few roadblocks, but people, when I said I was jumping into the cannabis industry, I had a lot of detractors in my circle that were like, why you don't touch it? You're going to get in trouble. What are you doing with that? And I'm like, no. This is a legal industry. This is an online marketing platform that we're doing with cannabis. But you're right. It's in such a primitive stage that this industry has not even begun to get going yet because of a lot of obstacles, federally, legally, whatever you want to call it, different rules for different municipalities, states, counties. It really is in the beginning, and it's still the same principles of building a business, but now you're just adapting to the infancy of the industry. Is that basically saying what you said earlier?
You're 100% correct, 100% correct. But for MAE, there's one additional obstacle, and that is we're going for luxury. Now, this market is completely at commodity stage. So branding, you can build a business that's not branded. Branding has its own unique qualities. Everything I've done in my life has been based on branding. Now, when you want to brand something, and let's say, if you want to equate it with like Veuve Clicquot. Veuve Clicquot is aspirational, but it's accessible. Dom Perignon isn't. Mont Blanc pens are beautiful objects, but they're accessible. You can get a Mont Blanc pen for $100. There's other luxury brands that are very expensive. So to do luxury and branding in an industry where it's commodity has very unique challenges. When we go talk to someone, they're like, why would somebody spend $120 on a pipe? The answer is because it's designed perfectly and it works perfectly. So basically this branding concept adds an additional layer because of the timing. Other than that, the principles are the same. You got to find the right space. You got to position yourself properly. You got to assemble a good team. You got to empower the team, and you got to have a mission, and you got to have a DNA to your brand. It doesn't matter what field you go into, these principles apply. And then everybody's very focused on capital. I think it's overstated the use for capital. I think if you do the right thing, the capital would come. And what shocked me in this industry, when I'm seeing like a company like Candescent and stuff having 170 employees with 4 SKUs, well, this didn't make sense to me. Then I learned it was easy to get money. So people went out and get money. So when you get a lot of money, your freedom goes away.
Correct.
Now you're slave to the money you raised. So principles, I absolutely agree with you. The principles are identical, except you have headwinds here, and you also have strong winds behind you. So it's sort of a weird experience. You're going into an industry that's exploding, but no one's understanding what you're doing because they're like, why is this 20% more expensive? When in every other industry, you cannot name me one industry that does not have a branded luxury component in it, whether it's golf, skiing, snowboarding, bicycling. So anyway, the branding aspect makes it a little bit more complicated. Other than that, I would agree with you 100%. It's exactly the same.
So marketing has been an issue for the cannabis industry. I know that we have a mutual partner and friend in Brandon Hampton, who's a great guy and introduced us and is a master at social media. How are you trying to market the brand and get it out there?
Yes, basically we want to be as direct to consumer as possible because I come from retail, selling Nordstrom's and everyone in the fashion business. I'm not a huge fan of this dispensary as the main method of delivery. I think it's very complicated. I think these bartenders are not trained. To me, the idea that to get a massage or get a haircut, you need a license, but you can actually dispense medicine and know nothing about it is weird. And also you get into a dispensary, you're 4 SKUs out of 1,000, 1,100 SKUs. So our focus is to try to be as direct to consumer as possible. On a THC side, it's going to be mainly most by deliveries, but we're also going after the top dispensaries. But on the accessory side, we're going completely direct to consumer. And the methodology we're using is to finding the relevant influencers. And they call them micro-influencers. Some people call them mini-influencers. I'm not talking about getting to Kim Kardashian.
Right.
Okay, so basically getting the right ones. And then we have a very nice gift box, which contains about a bunch of these objects. We engage them and we ask, and we're not telling them even what to do, or we're telling them, this is what we do. If you want to help us, help us. So basically the idea is to maximize the direct consumer aspect of this business through influencers. And Brandon is an expert at it. I basically, out of 5 people on our team, 3 are in marketing. And so, but the marketing is not traditional marketing. We're trying to go as digital as possible. We just launched last week. We were at like 200 followers. We're up to about 2,800 in less than a week. So basically the idea is to use any methodology possible digitally to enhance our direct-to-consumer brand. That doesn't mean we will not sell our brands to retailers. But I'm saying our main focus is to be able to go direct-to-consumer.
Yeah, and that's great, especially in this year where most people are just getting everything direct to them as opposed to going to a middleman or going to a retail outlet. That's the smart business play.
Because retail has problems and it's not new. The reason I sold ALC, I didn't sell it at the peak. ALC is a major fashion brand. I was sure Barney's was going to go out of business. I was sure Neiman Marcus was going to go out of business because I've been doing business with them for 30 years. You go in there, there's nobody there. Before COVID, there was nobody there. So department stores having problems. Brick and mortar is good, but retail has unique problems. The future is direct to consumer, with or without COVID. COVID accentuated it.
Correct. I agree.
But there's no question this idea of retail dying has nothing to do with cannabis. I'm not a big fan of it, but I can't change technology. I can't change history. What I can do is adapt to it. And I also like the idea that you're in charge of presenting your own product as opposed to a middle person. The direct-to-consumer gives you that opportunity, but it's much, much harder. It's a lot easier to get a bunch of wholesale orders and fill them.
Yep, so I agree that 2020, although a crazy year for everyone, it really accelerated the future by forcing people to adapt to a new lifestyle or a new way to obtain their products or just get through their essential products. And I think you hit it right on the head there with that comment.
So I'm just, my methodology is problem solution as opposed to right, wrong, or, why did this happen? There's a problem, there's a solution. Cannabis has a lot of headwinds. There's solutions to it. Cannabis is only selling to stoners, ignoring the newcomer. There's a solution to it. Cannabis is not discreet. There's a solution to it. Make it discreet.
That is correct.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more with the statement you made that building a business is building a business. What industry it's in and what the specifics are is not that material. If you understand consumer branding, it really doesn't matter if you make a toothpaste or you make Chobani yogurt or you create a marijuana brand. The principles are identical.
Identical. Even if you have 3 people on your team, 30 or 300, it's the same exact thing with a little expansion, a little bit of an expansion mindset, but it's the same principles.
100%. 100%. And being 64 and having done this since 24, I tell people Forrest Gump would have learned it on a third. This is my 8th.
Nice. All right. So Armen, you gave us the website and we're going to put all this in the show notes. Everyone's got to check out the awesome stuff that they're doing over at MAE. Tell us, but we're going to finish up. Normally I finish up with a general cannabis question, but you hit on something earlier and I think it'll be of great value to some of the people out there that are starting businesses or have existing businesses. You mentioned the downfall in raising a lot of money at the get-go, at the start. And we see a lot of these companies in cannabis, whether they're big Canadian operations or California delivery companies that raise 50 to 100 million or way more than that. And they're all dead. They're all underwater. They're all in trouble. They went too big, too fast, taking other people's money, and they lost that freedom that you mentioned earlier. So when starting a smaller business, for the smaller entrepreneur out there or business owner, can you give some advice as why you shouldn't raise a lot of money up front? You know, maybe take some friends. Like I have always believed, either self-fund it yourself if you believe the idea. Then once you get it launched, go to some friends and family and take a little bit of money of someone that just liked your story before you go to a seasoned investor or private equity or a private lender that's really just going to own you at that point, and you're going to lose that freedom. Can you tell everyone, give some advice on your experience with that?
All I could tell you is what my experience is.
Right.
And most of my friends are in the tech business, so they raise a lot of money through tech. Okay. And that was possible in cannabis a year ago before the stocks crashed. My thinking is this: clarity of vision and ability to execute your vision without being disrupted is the number one key to success. It's not money. It's singularity of vision. The same applies in motion pictures. The studios destroy the movies between the executives and the other one. They destroy the movies because some executive is coming in and saying, oh, change this, change that, change that. So a perfectly great movies that are funded heavily end up being bad. And a lot of very low budget movies are very good because the owner is not restrained. Well, I think of capital as cocaine, literally as cocaine. Once you get that much money, or 20 or 30 million, now you have to hire a CEO from Cornell, a CFO from Harvard, and this and that. You have to have a rent. Each one of them need assistants. And they do all of this. And at the end of the day, this job can be done with 6 people with 1/10 of the money. All you have to do is be smart about it. Now, the moment you get this money, now you're not in control of yourself. If you take example like MedMen and stuff, if MedMen was not vertical and they were just retailer, they would not have had a problem. There was no reason for them to be vertical. It's just a Canadian model because that's how Canada funded. Now you have all this capital and you have all this staff. Now you have pressure on performance. So you can't grow organic. Then you have to do stuff that you didn't want to do. Now you have to do it because you have investors. So my advice to everyone is get friends and family money. You don't need all these executives. You don't need anything. You just need to solve a problem. If you're not solving a problem, you don't have a business. Solve the problem with the least amount of capital. Then when you have traction, then raise capital because then they're going to buy your formula. They're not going to shape your formula. I personally think having $20 million to start a cannabis business is actually a distraction. $1 million is more than good enough. Millions more than good enough. 700,000 or 800,000 is good enough. But you need to know what you're doing. But you can't go out and hire guns, right? A $1 million CEO, 800,000 CFO. You don't need any of this. That's actually my opinion. And it's also my experience for 40 years in about 7 or 8 startups. That singularity of vision, ability to execute your vision without being diluted is the hardest thing. whether your salespeople are giving you input, your finance people are giving you input. If you lose your vision, just imagine if Steve Jobs compromised on the iPhone. Well, he wouldn't have been the iPhone.
Yep.
And when he tried doing it at the first round, Scully kicked him out. He lost control. So I think maintaining control and being able to execute your strategy is the key part. And I can't for the life of me see why somebody needs $20 million to get into the cannabis business. I just don't see it. But I see a lot of examples of it around. Then I'm looking at it and saying, are they any more successful than people who didn't have capital? I don't see any evidence for that. I don't see any evidence for the companies that raised $20 or $30 million executing better than little startups that did it with $500,000. And this is based on studies.
And they have a lot of people to answer to. A lot of powerful people to answer to.
So internally, now you need the decision. There's 4 vice presidents sitting there arguing while you know exactly what needs to be done. And now politics get into running the company. It's not necessary. The flatter you can keep it, and we're lucky enough that we're functioning at a time that flat, geographically distributed, virtual companies can be more efficient. And COVID proved that. So you don't need the office, you don't need that lobby, you don't need that receptionist, you don't need any of this stuff. What you need is an amazing product. That means you have to have tremendous amount of budget to put into R&D, and then communication. You don't need the rest of this stuff. In my opinion, all this stuff is distraction. It was necessary 25 years ago. It's not necessary today. You can look at what we're doing right now. We haven't even met in person.
Correct. It's amazing. The technology, everything's, whoever's listening to this, maybe you're listening on a phone, you're holding that phone in your hand. You could literally start and run a business from that phone.
Exactly. My best example, I believe the name of the movie was Irishman. It was a Scorsese movie, TV series. I think it's called The Irishman.
Yes.
This one kid called iFake did a better job than Industrial Light and Magic. I believe it's called iFake. The person basically took The Irishman with an iPhone, and the results are 10 times better than what Industrial Light and Magic. This is one kid on an iPhone. And I would encourage everyone to look this up. The Irishman, I believe it's called iFake. The guy basically one-handedly did more than Industrial Light and Magic, because today we're in an environment that all of this is possible. This could not have been done 10 years ago. And I think people could grossly underestimate the ability of a virtual company with a bunch of different talents working in the same direction without stacking them in an office with a secretary, executive, and memos, meetings. These are unnecessary, in my opinion. This is one person, but in my opinion, it's totally unnecessary. You're forced into it by investors. No one's going to fund a company that doesn't have a CFO from, say, Stanford. And what does that guy know? He's 32.
Yeah, especially graduates now. College graduates have a fancy degree, but they've learned from a textbook from 1920, so they don't know the real world anyway. So I never understood those hires myself.
Exactly, but if you don't get them, you don't get the money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the people with the money are all the MBAs, and they're using them. They're hiring them.
And all they want to do is check a box and say, oh, the CFO is from Harvard. Oh, the CEO is from Stanford. Oh, this guy is this. Nobody says, what has this guy done?
Exactly. Oh, man. Unbelievable. So, hey, all the startups out there, all the current business owners, all the aspiring business owners, listen to Armen, because he's got decades of experience. Everything he said, I agree with 100%. It was great advice. And more importantly, or maybe less importantly, more importantly, however you prioritize it, check out the new and exciting MAE brand. We're going to have all the info in the show notes. Their stuff is fantastic. I know firsthand. Armen Gregorian, CEO and founder of MAE. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor.
Thank you, my friend. And we will see everyone next time on the Pot Live Podcast. If you are into the recreational side of the cannabis industry, yes, stoners, I'm talking to you, then thepot.com is the online and mobile destination for you. That's right, THEPOT.com, thepot.com. Where else can you find the exclusive Pot Mate of the Month? take a pot quiz and win prizes, scroll through hilarious memes and jokes, and check out the latest podcasts, news, and trends, all while having your own profile and voice in the pot.com forum. Visit thepot.com today and get lit.